Hey friends, it's Teresa here and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to December Daily 2022, and today I wanted to work on day 12. I'm having a play with Traci Reed Candy Coated Christmas. I'll have the products linked down below for you, and I will have a link to the foundation page for you as well. This is what the foundation page looked like that I'm going to be working with. The event for the day is going to see a drive-through kind of Christmas light show that we go to every year at Tanglewood in Forsyth County, North Carolina. And so what I did was created these little gifts from stickers in the Candy Coated Christmas collection, and I kind of blew them up a little bit, added some pattern papers in Photoshop, and then brought them into Silhouette and printed. I had the Silhouette print and cut the pieces. And what I had originally done was created little tabs so that they would fold out on these tabs, and then covered the back with another piece of paper. And even though I had saved all of the sized drawings and SVG files and everything, when I went to print out the photos, they just didn't quite, I couldn't quite get them to fit into the presents. And so I ended up needing to reprint everything anyway. And so I sort of redesigned the page, and that's what I wanted to show you today, is how I redesigned and took these elements to make it a little bit more streamlined. I think that it's important to show you the honest process and how foundation pages can evolve. And so what I'm going to do for a few minutes is take you to the computer and show you that on the Silhouette, the changes that I made. Okay, so here I am in the Silhouette software, and this is the file that I had saved back last October, November. And for some reason, when I brought back the photos that I wanted to use into this file, they just didn't cut the same size. I tried it several times, and plus it just felt bulky. The layout itself just felt bulky, and the presents didn't fold right. So I went in and made some adjustments to this whole thing. And one thing I decided that I was going to do is to simply print the whole presents themselves directly on top of the pattern paper to eliminate one of the layers. And so that's a matter of I brought these, I separated them out so that you just go into object and release the compound pad, and then you have individual presents to deal with. And I brought those in to just a whole new file. And also opened up the background pattern paper and sized that down to 8.25. And so that exists now and just fits right exactly in between the cut lines. And it really doesn't matter that they don't fit in between the cut lines, or the pattern paper doesn't fit, because we're not actually cutting the pattern paper from using the Silhouette. I'm just going to cut that out on my paper trimmer later. But you do want to have a sense of where are the gifts going on the page. The other thing that I did was I brought in the photos and superimpose those onto each gift. You can crop them. You can crop your photos to the shapes themselves. That is, let's see, that is in the modify panel, and you just select the two shapes that you're wanting to create, and you hit crop. So yay for that. That makes that part easier. The other thing that you're going to need to do is, even though each gift has its own cut lines, you're going to have to make your own, because otherwise it's just going to cut out the present for you. And what you want it to do is cut the gatefold. And so what that meant doing is, let me zoom in here and show you. So go into your trace tool like normal, as if it didn't already have the red lines around it, and trace what you need. Turn up your threshold, usually right at 100. And then I just do trace outer edge, and that gives you another trace line. But what you're going to want to do is put that one into the point editing mode, and you're going to start to change your lines so that it's performing the way that you want it to do. And you just have to play around with that a little bit. Use your simplify tool, use the break path tool. I don't know if you've ever done that or not, but when you say break path, it puts a little red dot where it is, and that little red dot will create two separate lines for you. And that way you can take out your the lines on the edges, because we don't need those. We just want to fold those after the fact. So what I did was, I had each of the cuts, each of the silhouette cuts goes slightly around the corners, just to make that cut a little bit better. Hold on and I'll show you. So let's break the path right there. Get our little red dot and figure out which it goes to. Okay, cool. And then we're going to delete on down. And let's pull that one down here to that. And you can always, move this back so you can see how well you're doing or whatever. And just neaten it up and make that look the way that you want it to look. The only caveat is, once you print, you're going to print this particular page with the gifts. You're going to print that on the background paper, and then send it through the silhouette. And before you send it through the silhouette, you have to take all of the actual gifts off of your paper, or else it will cut those gifts twice in the silhouette. So then you can do the layout for your photos, and I created a journal spot as well, and that's what that page looks like. And I'll go back to my filming desk and show you what it looks like now that it's a little bit more clear and concise. Okay, so back at my work desk, and so these are the old cuts that I made last year, and we're just going to set those aside and consider those a learning experience. And then here's how the new cuts turned out, and I wanted to show this to you before I cut it out, just so you could see. Give it a little bit of space here. And so this is the pattern paper, the background pattern paper with the gift windows cut out. Some of them I left the little center frame in the cut, just because it makes for a fun little effect when you open it. It looks like a window for real. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and speed up the process, cut all these out, and put everything together and let you see how this whole page comes together in the end. Okay, I'm going to jump right in here. Also, I wanted to note I sped this up a little bit faster than what I normally run, just to try to keep the length of this video a little bit shorter, because it is kind of a long process here. But I hope you'll bear with me, because I thought it was kind of important to show how this process really did evolve. It didn't just come out as a perfect layout just from the start. It was a learning experience for me, and I think that that's a lot of fun for me personally. So you'll notice how when I'm trimming these two pages out, I am trimming them out, the top layer with the bottom layer at the same time, so that everything lines up. And it worked really well thanks to the stacking that I did in the Silhouette software before printing, and definitely using the word is leaving my mind right now. Using those guides, the black dot and the lines around the Silhouette thing as a permanent point to how things line up. So at this stage, I'm going to adhere both of the layers together, and I want to be sure and get a good secure hold, because there are tension points where the folds are. So I'm using red line tape for that. This is printed on like a semi-gloss photo paper, so it is heavier, and the two layers together are a really nice thick weight, so it's going to hold up in the album really well. And using red line tape seemed to be the best choice to make sure that those fold lines don't create stress behind the scenes, so to speak. One thing I was debating about these little bow ties on the top of some of the gifts, and I did go ahead by accident. I went ahead and decided to trim those off and let those just be flat on the layout itself. And that seemed to do really well. It happened by accident because I put red line tape here where this one was, the tape was kind of already adhering it down. And so that solved that problem for me, because I had been debating back and forth about whether I was going to leave those bows as a part of the gift to flip out, or was I going to, should they be adhered down? So then I adhered down. I did put one of the journal cards, I think, behind this present to use the lines for journaling. And then here's one of the spots where I didn't quite have enough space for the red line tape, so I used a glue pen there. I probably will go back and reinforce that again at some point. Again, just thinking ahead into the future and how well will these pages stand the test of time in our albums. For my number, and I put the number pretty prominent on a page, but this time I'm thinking that I'm going to straight up hide it in this little gift, and that's fine. This is one of the numbers from the Candy Coated Christmas number set. I love these. They've been one of my favorites in this album. I took the stamps and recolored them so that mine are all different colors from the collection itself, and I think that's a lot of fun to do. Of course, you could just print it plain black on white and that would look just as beautiful. And then I had the idea while I was working behind the scenes on this layout, I had the idea to do a little embellishment on top of each gift. One, it serves a functional purpose to help open or to help fold out the gift, but it also, kind of added some little details. I used some of the arrow elements from the collection and some of the word strips that kind of fit this event. Here's another spot where I needed to just add a little bit of glue there. And so that seemed to work out really well. And again, I'm still using the red line tape just to make sure that these things last on the page. I'm gonna switch over to the other side of the layout here, and I was just doing another check to make sure that everything was lined up pretty closely, at least. But everything did line up really well. And then I'm adding my red line tape around the page, and again trying to make sure that the folding points have a good backup there. Just to make sure that everything stays in place really well over the years. And so a couple of notes about the photos themselves. I have to say, like, we go to this light show every year. It's in every December daily I've ever done, and there's a video about it every year. I feel like, but they always change things up, and sometimes there's new things, and that's why I still take pictures and I still include it in my albums. Sometimes I'm able to get pictures of displays that I hadn't gotten in the past, and that's always fun to try to do that. And some years I'm still trying to get that certain photo from that certain display and just get it just right. But I always point that out because I think that a lot of people feel bad or feel some kind of pressure, like if you just document the same events year after year, that it can get boring. But it doesn't have to get boring. For one thing, everybody changes from year to year, and events change from year to year. We literally can't live the same minutes over again. So there's always something different. There's always a different story or a different something that you noticed. And I love going to this event with that perspective in mind, because I'm looking for the photos, I'm looking for the stories, I'm looking for what makes this unique from last year, and then document that. That is definitely one of the lenses that I encourage you to use when you're journaling and when you're writing about, particularly in a yearly type album like December Daily, to look for the lens of what's different this year, what's new. I think that's really cool. So there were a couple of things here on this side I wanted to point out. One is I really liked that little car with the Christmas tree on top. And so I made a point of using that down in the lower corner near the margin. And then I balanced it with the little fa la la over here on the top right, just to add, a little more something fun on the page, and sort of fill up a little bit of white space. I also loved using that ticket there with the car and the tree, and then again adding more of these little word strips and little arrow elements. Some of them I had already pulled out before I started filming, just because, look, there are so many die cuts and so many elements in this collection. that it takes a while to go through, but I always try to just go through and pull a few that I know are relevant to this story and relevant to the photos that I'm displaying here. Also, another thing that kind of intrigues me about this layout is how it's definitely different than what I've done in the past. But the surprise element of what's behind these folded papers, these folded presents. And it's like a little surprise. And usually, we feel this intense pressure to make sure that the photos are center stage. And this is definitely a great example of a layout where the photos aren't necessarily center stage, because the first thing that you see is presents. And this absolutely would be a great layout idea for Christmas itself, or for a birthday party if you were looking for ideas for something like that. But I loved using it for just a multi-photo event like this too. It's just for fun. It is like a present, like opening presents every year when we go, because everything's different. We always just have a good time going. It's definitely one of my favorite things to do. There was another present that didn't have a gift, or that didn't have a photo behind it. That little pink one with the red bow and the Santa paper on it. So I did a little word strip layered on top of a star in there. And then I'm just double checking again these little folds, making sure that they open out easily. I also discovered that the tape hung out a little bit past the present on those word strips. So I trimmed that up a little bit, just very carefully with my X-Acto knife, and just kind of making the fit and finish here of this layout more refined. I loved how this ended up turning out, how redesigning it made it a lot smoother and a lot less bulky in the album. I hope you've enjoyed following along with this very long process with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.